You know what most people never understand? A name is far more than just what others call you. It isn't simply a collection of letters chosen by your parents because they sounded pleasant together. At a much deeper level, your name carries something like a spiritual encoding, almost like a hidden frequency woven into your identity long before you entered this world. Today, I'm going to guide you through how that hidden structure can be interpreted to uncover your personal financial direction in life. I'm Rabbi David, Hidden Torah Wealth, and for more than 37 years I've been immersed in the study of Kabbalah, the Talmud, and the ancient numerical systems used by our sages to understand how reality itself is constructed. This knowledge was never meant to be casual information, but precise understanding of existence. I'm going to walk you through a process that uncovers the concealed number within your name and what it suggests about your financial path. As we go step by step, you'll calculate it using your own name in real time. And what you discover may feel unexpectedly revealing. That number is not random or symbolic in a vague sense. It reflects a deeper energetic pattern you've been living under without realizing it. When people finally see this, they often begin to understand why money flow has felt blocked or inconsistent. Many are unknowingly operating out of alignment with this underlying frequency. And that misalignment creates ongoing struggle even when effort is constant. Later, I'll show you exactly what to do once you know your number, and those steps can shift financial momentum in surprising ways, sometimes very quickly. Many people dismiss this entire idea as superstition or modern spiritual interpretation, but its roots go far deeper than that. In ancient Jewish tradition, sages studied what is called gematria, a system where letters and numbers are intrinsically connected, long before modern thought ever considered that numbers might carry symbolic or structural meaning. This is not guessing or fortune-telling, it is a disciplined framework that treats language itself as a form of mathematical design. Within these teachings, reality is seen as built on precise order, where numbers mirror spiritual laws that govern existence. Those who reject it without studying it often overlook the possibility that life operates on a layer they were never taught to perceive. What I am sharing comes directly from those traditions, carefully preserved and passed down through generations in serious study circles, where such knowledge was treated with deep reverence. Let me bring you back to a moment in my own life when I first began to truly experience this teaching. I was 28 years old, recently married, trying to build a stable future while following everything I was told would lead to success. I studied, secured respectable work, and worked long, demanding hours. Yet despite all that effort, financial pressure never seemed to ease. I was always behind, always trying to catch up, and the weight of responsibility felt constant. I still remember sitting alone in a small apartment one night, staring at my bank account and feeling completely stuck, wondering why life still felt so difficult even though I was doing everything right. It was a period filled with frustration and confusion, as if something invisible was holding everything in place. Right after Yom Kippur that year, my grandfather called me to come and sit with him in his study. I still remember how different that moment felt compared to anything else in my life. There was a seriousness in the air, like something important was about to be revealed rather than casually discussed. He had lived through decades of study and tradition, and I could sense that he was about to share something he had never explained in full detail before. Around that same time, I also began gathering everything I was learning into what later became the Jewish Money Code, a collection of teachings, prayers, and principles that wealthy families had quietly preserved for generations. This wasn't something spoken about openly in everyday conversation. He was in his 80s then, and he didn't waste time on small talk. Because we're not just reacting to circumstances, we're interacting with a deeper structure that already defines the flow of our life. My grandfather then opened an old leather-bound journal, worn at the edges, filled with handwritten notes in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Yiddish. He told me, "Yaakov, your struggle is coming from one thing. You don't know your number. You are trying to live a path that isn't yours." I didn't understand what he meant at first. He began showing me tables and coded systems, explaining how every Hebrew letter carries a numerical value, and how names are not random labels but structured codes. He took my Hebrew name, Yaakov ben Moshe, and calculated it step by step, adding and reducing values, connecting them through ancient interpretive methods. Then he said, "Your number is 5. He explained that 5 represents communication, movement, trade, and connection, and that I had been forcing a completely different pattern of discipline that didn't match me. He didn't stop there. He gave me very specific guidance tied to that number: how to act, when to make decisions, how to speak, and even how to position myself in business environments. At the time, it felt unusual, almost too precise to take lightly, but I followed it exactly as he instructed. What happened next wasn't immediate magic, but a shift in direction that I couldn't ignore. Within a few weeks, I was approached for a partnership I never applied for. Months later, my income increased significantly, and over time, I reached a level of stability I had never experienced before. It didn't feel like luck. It felt like things finally stopped resisting me. That was the moment I understood he wasn't giving me advice in a modern sense. He was describing alignment with something I had been unconsciously out of sync with my entire life. After that experience, I began to see this pattern everywhere in a much deeper way. It wasn't just personal interpretation anymore. It felt like a system hidden beneath tradition and language itself. The idea that the Torah and ancient texts are built on layered numerical structures started to make more sense to me. Every word, every letter, every spacing carrying meaning beyond the surface level. In those teachings, it is also believed that before a soul enters the world, it is assigned a name that already contains its direction, its challenges, and its purpose. Nothing about it is considered accidental. Instead, it reflects a designed structure, almost like a blueprint, embedded into identity itself. Once you begin viewing it this way, you start to question how much of your life has been aligned and how much has been resistance without even realizing it. That's why I'm asking you to take part in this, not just listen passively. Write in the comments right now, "I am ready to know my number." This isn't just engagement, it's participation in a process that requires awareness, not observation alone. Many people who have gone deeper into this system report feeling shifts in perspective and decision-making once they start applying it seriously. The full system I mentioned earlier, the complete Jewish money code collection, brings together these teachings, practices, and frameworks in one place. It has already reached people who were stuck in long-term financial cycles and helped them reevaluate their patterns in a very practical way. But nothing changes for someone who only watches from a distance. It begins with involvement. And I need you to understand something important about the way most people experience financial struggle today. You work harder, you try to improve, you follow conventional advice, and yet it often feels like progress is unstable. You move forward, then something pulls you back again. That cycle creates exhaustion, not clarity. You start noticing others who seem to advance with less visible effort, and it creates confusion about what you're missing. The truth is, Most people are operating without any understanding of their internal alignment. They are applying effort without direction, which eventually feels like pushing against resistance that never ends. What I'm describing here is not about effort. It's about whether that effort is moving in harmony with the underlying pattern you're meant to express. We are aligning ourselves with spiritual laws that remain constant, no matter how much the world changes around us. What I'm sharing with you in this video is only the entry point into something much deeper. If you're truly serious about applying these ancient Jewish principles of wealth to your own life, I've compiled everything into a book called The Ancient Wealth Code. Inside it, you'll find the full framework, 10 foundational principles that have been preserved and practiced by Jewish families for over 3,000 years to build, sustain, and transfer wealth across generations. This isn't abstract philosophy or motivational theory, it is a structured system. It is available right now through the link in the description and pinned comment. But understand this clearly, information without execution has no value. Over the years, I've seen changes in people's lives that they themselves could only describe as miracles, though from my perspective, they were simply moments of alignment. I've watched a single mother identify her name number, realize she carried the energy of a 7, a path connected to teaching, guidance, and inner wisdom. And within a short period, she launched a coaching practice that replaced her previous income entirely. I've seen a man in his 50s, who had spent decades stuck in the same position, discover he carried the energy of a 3, associated with communication and creativity. And he began sharing his ideas online, eventually building a 6-figure income stream. I've also seen younger individuals, overwhelmed by debt, discover they carried the energy of an 8, connected with leadership and structure, and through reorganizing their financial behavior and decisions, they became debt-free within a year. The pattern was the same in every case. They calculated their number, understood its meaning, and then made decisions aligned with it. No shortcuts, no illusions, just consistent application of a structured system. So now we move into the practical part. I'm going to guide you through how to calculate what is often referred to as your wealth number, using the system of gematria, a method used in Kabbalistic tradition for thousands of years to interpret deeper meanings behind letters and words. This same approach was used by sages to study sacred texts, analyze patterns, and derive insight into the structure of reality. The foundation of this system is the belief that everything in existence carries frequency, and that numbers are one of the clearest ways to understand that frequency. In this view, language is not random, it is structured, and names are not accidental. They are expressions of identity encoded in form. Within Kabbalistic thought, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet are understood as fundamental building blocks of creation, each carrying its own numerical value and energetic quality. When combined into words or names, they form patterns that reflect deeper layers of meaning. Even in broader tradition, it is taught that a name is not chosen without significance, and that parents are guided in ways they may not fully realize when naming a child. From this perspective, your name is connected to your personal mission in life, and converting it into numbers is simply a way of reading that underlying structure. The purpose is not to predict the future, but to understand tendencies, strengths, and challenges more clearly. Unlike simplified modern numerology systems, which often stay on a surface level of interpretation, this method is rooted in centuries of textual tradition found in sources like the Torah, Talmud, and Zohar. It focuses less on prediction and more on alignment, how a person's behavior and decisions interact with their natural pattern. In classical teachings, there is also the concept of mazal, meaning destiny or flow of influence. While people often interpret destiny as fixed, traditional teachings suggest it is not entirely rigid. Instead, it can shift through awareness, behavior, and alignment with higher principles. In this framework, your name number becomes one piece of understanding how your life flow operates, especially in areas like decision-making and financial behavior. Now let's move into the actual process. I want you to follow this step carefully and apply it to your own name as we go. Write down the name you use most in daily life. Your first name, the one people naturally call you. If you have a different cultural or spiritual name that you actively identify with, you can use that instead. The goal is consistency with how you are known in your everyday life. For reference, here is the traditional Hebrew value system used in Gematria. Aleph equals 1, Bet equals 2, Gimel equals 3, Dalet equals 4, Hey equals 5, Vav equals 6, Zayin equals 7, Chet equals 8, Tet equals 9, Yud equals 10, Kaf equals 20, Lamed equals 30, Mem equals 40, Nun equals 50, Samech equals 60, Ayin equals 70, Peh equals 80, Tzadi equals 90, Kuf equals 100, Resh equals 200, Shin equals 300, and Tav equals 400. For names not originally in Hebrew, a phonetic conversion approach is used to assign numerical values based on sound equivalence. In this system, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, D equals 4, E equals 5, F equals 6, G equals 7, H equals 8, I equals 9, J equals 10, K equals 20, L equals 30, M equals 40, N equals 50, O equals 60, P equals 70, Q equals 80, R equals 90, S equals 100, T equals 200, U equals 300, V equals 400, W equals 500, X equals 600, Y equals 700, and Z equals 800. Now, apply this step by step to your name. Convert each letter into its corresponding number. Then add all the values together. Once you have the total, reduce it by adding the digits together until you reach a single digit between 1 and 9. That final number is what is referred to as your personal wealth number in this system. For example, if someone calculates a total like 418, they would add 4 plus 1 plus 8 to reach 13, and then 1 plus 3 to reach 4. That final digit is the core number. In some cases, the initial total may include master numbers such as 11, 22 or 33 before reduction, which are treated as special cases in this framework and carry additional interpretive weight. Eights are meant to operate in large systems of power, influence and responsibility. Their wealth path is built through authority, decision-making and the ability to manage resources at scale. They are natural executives, entrepreneurs and deal-makers. When an 8 steps into their proper role, money tends to follow structure and leadership rather than hesitation or fear. Their strength is their ability to think big and take control when others hesitate. But their challenge is often tied to imbalance in ambition, either pushing too aggressively or becoming consumed by external success. When that energy is not directed properly, it can turn into constant pressure or financial volatility. However, when an 8 learns discipline, patience and emotional balance alongside ambition, their capacity to generate and manage wealth increases dramatically, because they are naturally aligned with systems that involve scale and long-term impact. When people begin to understand their number and start operating in alignment with it, something subtle but powerful begins to shift in their perception. It's not that the outside world instantly transforms, it's that they begin to recognize opportunities they were previously blind to. Their decisions feel clearer, their timing improves, and their resistance decreases. In this framework, wealth is not treated as random luck or purely external circumstance, but as a reflection of internal alignment with a specific energetic pattern. When actions match that pattern, things tend to feel less forced and more synchronized. When they don't, even strong effort can feel like it produces limited results. This is why the concept of frequency is emphasized so heavily in this teaching. It represents the idea that direction matters just as much as effort itself. At this point in the system, the focus shifts from identification to application. Knowing your number is not meant to be the conclusion, it is meant to be the beginning of behavioral change. Each number carries a different set of strengths, tendencies, and blind spots. And the purpose of understanding them is to make more conscious decisions in work, money, and relationships. Instead of copying what others are doing, the idea is to refine your actions so they align with your own pattern. In this view, financial struggle is not always about lack of effort, but often about misalignment between effort and natural direction. When that alignment is corrected, people often describe a sense of things becoming easier, not because the world changed overnight, but because they are no longer working against themselves. Your challenge as an 8 is that your strength can easily turn into pressure, and your drive can push you into burnout if it isn't grounded. You're built for authority, scale, and leadership, but when that energy is unbalanced, you start relying only on force instead of flow. That's where wealth becomes strained, not because your potential is lacking, but because the spiritual side of abundance gets ignored. True success for an 8 comes when ambition is guided by integrity, and when you build structures that can continue working even without your constant control. When you learn that balance, your financial growth becomes far more stable, because you're no longer exhausting yourself to sustain what should be self-sustaining. If you're a 9, your path is very different. You are a humanitarian at your core, a visionary who is meant to think beyond personal gain and focus on broader impact. Your wealth tends to expand when your work connects to service, meaning, and contribution to others. 9s often struggle when they think too small or stay stuck in environments that don't match their inner sense of purpose. You are not designed for shallow effort. You need meaning in what you do, or you unconsciously block your own progress. Your biggest challenge is attachment, whether to people, situations, or outdated versions of yourself. When you learn to release what no longer fits and trust your broader mission, your financial path begins to open in unexpected ways. Everything I've shared so far is only a portion of a much larger system. In Rabbi David, Hidden Torah Wealth, I've outlined 10 foundational principles that expand on these ideas in far greater depth. What you've seen here represents just one of those principles. The remaining teachings go deeper into alignment, decision-making, timing, and the hidden structure behind financial flow. If this has already shifted your perspective, the full system is designed to take that understanding further into practical application. The link is available in the description and pinned comment for those who want to explore it more seriously. Now that you've identified your number, the next 24 hours are important for setting direction. Write your number down clearly and place it somewhere visible in your daily routine, like your mirror, workspace, wallet, or phone background. The purpose is to keep it present in your awareness, so your decisions begin to reflect it naturally. Then look honestly at your current way of earning or pursuing money. Ask yourself whether it aligns with your number or conflicts with it. Often, frustration comes from working against your own natural pattern without realizing it. Finally, take one simple action today that matches your number's energy. Something small but intentional that moves you in the right direction rather than keeping you stuck in repetition.